The buildings were filled with shelves stacked high. Workers were ordered to organize everything, sort it, and package it to be sent out to help the Nazi war efforts.
And if you're in Auschwitz now, there is a museum, of course, you can see those piles of things, like shoes, for example. There is this gigantic pile of shoes. Hello, guys.
Hi, everyone.
I am Waldemar.
And I'm Weronika.
Today we are watching a more serious video than we are watching usually. It's called What's Inside Auschwitz, and it's made by a channel called Atrium. It's a pretty small channel. I just saw 30,000 subscribers, but this video is pretty popular, over 1 million views, and from the looks of it, I haven't watched this video, I just checked it out a bit, and it looks really well done.
It's an animation?
Yeah, it's like an animation, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I think this channel will grow well. So if you will like this video, you may check it out. As you probably know, we are from Poland. So, the topic of, Holocaust, of concentration camps is pretty familiar to us.
And you've been to Auschwitz, right?
Yeah, I have been. You haven't, right?
I haven't, no. It's just... My school didn't go on a trip, which is pretty common for most school to go, I suppose. And it's not that it's an excuse, because I should have went anyway, but there was never the opportunity, I guess. But I would like to go one day. I mean, it's strange to say but I think it's important to say it, so I hope we go one day.
Yeah, I was there with the school trip. I was 14, I believe. But yeah, I would like to go once more, because, 14, you are aware of everything, but it's not at least for me, it wasn't a proper age to really grasp the gravity of the place. I knew, I understood, but it's not the same. It was before I watched Schindler's List, so
yeah.
It's like one of those movies that you really you heard about something, but then you're not seeing it on your own eyes, but it helps you.
Yeah, you can really visualize it.
Yeah. So that's why I would want to go there once more.
Yeah, with all the knowledge you now have, right?
Yeah,
because a lot
exactly.
about the war as well. And I think the maturity that we now have, just simply because we are older and we're thinking about things, that would probably be a different... But I think it is an even harder experience now, to be honest. Yeah, it would not be very easy to go.
Yeah. Also, if you are visiting Poland for some reason and you are there, you can also watch more things, because I think the Auschwitz is the most popular destination place for tourists in Poland. At least that's what I heard. So
yeah.
Just so it's not an ad, but there are more things in Poland. Not only just for fun, even historical things. We have more things than just the German heritage that we have. Right. But let's see. You ready?
Yeah.
6 p.m., June 10th, 1944. A train grinds to a halt inside Auschwitz for the first time, hours after departing from Budapest. The doors swing open and thousands of people pour out, clamoring and scanning their surroundings. Smoke hangs in the air, mixing with the sharp scent of pungent ash. Violent shouts from guards direct passengers to place their few possessions besides the tracks. Bags containing only the bare essentials and the most cherished possessions they could salvage from their homes. Standing on the tracks is Lukács. He's just 16 years old. With him is his father, Sandor. They are the last of their bloodline. A few days before, his family had lived in relative comfort. Lukács went to school, his father was a pharmacist, and they resided in a large apartment. Life was good. Yesterday, that all changed. Lukács and his father are filed into a fast-moving line with other men and teenagers. Next to them is another queue with young children, women, and the elderly. At the front, an SS doctor is inspecting the arrivals. Lukács has heard rumors of the atrocities committed by the Nazis, but never in his wildest dreams did he imagine seeing them firsthand. He is standing inside Auschwitz-Birkenau, but what he doesn't realize yet is the true scope of the operation. This complex, covering over 140 hectares, was built to imprison, exploit, and
didn't know it
exterminate
was so big.
thousands of people.
It's
I mean, I knew there were a lot of
enormous.
people, but I didn't
On the
know
right
the
of this
space.
was
so
Auschwitz
big.
I, the original prisoner camp established in 1940. Initially used to hold the Polish resistance and political figures before it became overcrowded and Birkenau took over the responsibilities in 1942.
I will just say quickly about the beginning. The main character, I mean, if he is a character here, is Hungarian. And the interesting thing about the Nazis, the Hungary was an ally to the Nazi Germany for the beginning of the war. But as the German position grew weaker and weaker, they were losing with Russians, and the situation on the Western Front looked worse and worse. Then, the allies of the Germany started, looking for a way out. But Hungary was important for Germans because of the resources that there are.
What resources
Hungary,
are there?
like
coal or?
Petrol mostly.
Okay.
So the Jews that were in Hungary were pretty safe compared to other Jews in other parts of Europe, because there were no Nazi soldiers.
Okay, there were no mass deportations
in
from
Hungary.
Hungary.
But at the end of the war, Hitler feared that Hungary will turn sides. So he sent the soldiers to the Hungary to occupy the country and to safeguard the oil fields.
Okay.
And also because he was
already there.
Also because he was a Hitler, he was like, oh, but we need to go there also because we need to have all those Jews killed. So
seems like a very interesting way to use your resources at the end of the war.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they were already losing. Like, the war was already lost. But he still had this giant apparatus, dedicated to only one purpose of killing people, mostly Jews. And, you're losing war. You're fighting the war on two fronts with such big countries like Russia and United States, and England also at this time, large country, large empire. But your first goal, is to, we need to go to Hungary because
here.
we need to kill 1 million Jews.
Now serves as offices for the SS operating as the camp's administrative hub. Lukács and his father reach the front. This is no ordinary line. Life or death rests in the doctor's decision. A signal to the left spares them for forced labor. A signal to the right leads to the gas chambers. The doctor pauses and looks at them. Over 80% of the people sent to Auschwitz were murdered immediately at arrival. Just a minute ago, Tomas, who used to race Lukács home from school, and Mrs. Kovac, the elderly neighbor who would bring them warm bread, was deemed unfit to work and sent to the right. The doctor signals left, and guards push them aside. Some may view this as fortunate, but they are unaware of the horrors that lie ahead. Lukács and the rest of the newly arrived prisoners are taken to the west end of the camp. Lukács enters the building, known as the sauna, and is immediately commanded to strip. He complies. Hair is shaved off his head, arms, and legs. A needle pierces his flesh. Finally, a number is stamped on his skin. In the next room, hundreds of men shower with ice-cold water. Within a matter of minutes, everything that once made Lukács special was stripped away. As Lukács is taken to the barracks, he passes the Kanata buildings. Here was a somber repository of belongings discarded by those who had just arrived, each item telling a story of hope and despair. 30 barracks house the items of the thousands of daily arrivals. Inside, the buildings were filled with shelves stacked high. Workers were ordered to organize everything, sort it, and package it to be sent out to help the Nazi war efforts.
And if you're in Auschwitz now, there is a museum, of course, you can see those piles of things, like shoes, for example. There is this gigantic pile of shoes.
I wanted to stop now because I think that's when I hear stories about people visiting Auschwitz, that's always what they say about the shoes and the children's shoes, especially, and just about the, I don't know, because I haven't seen, but the sheer amount of the belongings that you can see there. I think this process that he's describing now is also pretty well portrayed, unless I'm mistaking the movies, but I think in Schindler's List, this was quite well portrayed, right? The beginning of how you get into the concentration camp.
In Schindler's List, there is no Auschwitz.
So which movie am I thinking then?
I don't know. There are concentration camps. I mean, there are camps. It depends on how you segregate those. But the main camp in Schindler's List, the one that was governed by Amon Geth, is a different camp, but I can't remember the name. Płaszów.
Yeah, I just meant the
Płaszów
process
camp.
of being admitted to it, but I don't remember if it was in that movie. It's a bit muddled in my head. If you don't remember, then
Yeah, I don't know what movie you're talking about. Sorry.
Lukács is pushed into his new home, his father at his side. The room is cramped, packed with men and boys, all reduced to shadows of their former selves. Rows upon rows of wooden bunks stacked 3 high, each one barely wide enough for a man to lie flat. The air is thick, heavy with the stench of sweat, decay, and sickness. The floors are damp and caked with filth. The wooden walls are bare, offering little insulation. A single dim lamp swings from the ceiling, casting just enough light for Lukács and his father to claim a small space on a top bunk. On the hardwood, they fall asleep, unaware of the chaotic day that awaits them. They are currently located in the Jewish camp. Birkenau holds 300 wooden and brick barracks, divided by prisoner type. Women are housed in sectors B1A and B1B, while Romani prisoners are in sector B2E. Other groups such as homosexual men, criminals, and Jehovah's Witnesses are also segregated. Each group wears a specific badge to indicate their identity. Lukács barely slept. He rises from his bunk. He gets the distinct impression that he needs to ready himself quickly. Everyone shuffles out of the barrack. The rain starts to come down. Lukács feels the cold seeping in. His body shivers as he stands in silence. Around him, shoulders sag under the weight of exhaustion. A man in the row ahead stumbles, collapsing face first into the mud. Not a single prisoner flinches. An SS guard notches something in his book. Time feels heavy for Lukács. Will anyone help him? He thinks. One of the guards barks an order. A prisoner in a similar uniform, but with an armband, hurries forward and without hesitation, grabs the body by the arms. The man is dragged away, leaving a smear of mud in his wake. Lukács knows it. He has just seen death for the first time. It's becoming clear that survival here depends on endurance, attracting little attention, and not falling ill. Lukács is assigned to a work group at Auschwitz Monowitz, and a troubling fear settles in. He doesn't know where his father is going, and deep down, he fears he may never see him again. As he walks with the others to his station,
And that's the sick part also, you were sent there with the whole families, and then you were segregating, woman from woman, children straight to the gas chambers, and you don't even know what happened with them.
yeah, and you're separated sometimes before to to different trains, and you think you're lucky because you're going together on one train, but then you get there and you're separated immediately.
a strange melody begins to waft through the air. Lukács glances around, searching for the source of the music. He spots an orchestra. A group of women stands under a watchful gaze of a conductor, performing songs for the prisoners. Their voices rise in haunting harmonies, contrasting sharply with the grim surroundings. Before they leave his sight, he locks eyes with a young girl playing a flute. She gives him a smile. Lukács smiles back. As he arrives at his station, Lukács is shocked. Monowitz is the third and final edition of Auschwitz, a huge factory complex. It primarily produced synthetic rubber and fuel, exploiting slave labor of the camp to support Germany's war efforts. This large industrial complex was dominated by tall brick chimneys emitting thick, black smoke. The factory buildings are massive, with barred windows that give them a prison-like appearance. For the next 6 hours, Lukács works to the bone. Any excuse will result in being shouted at, tormented, or beaten. His group is tasked with offloading and moving sacks full of heavy raw materials from a train cart onto a conveyor belt. As Lukács works, he loses himself in thought to distract his mind from the pain. He wonders why so few people knew of the Auschwitz operations. That's because the camp, being located in southern Poland, about 25 miles from the major city of Krakow, was no accident. Upon creation, it had already established railway connections, allowing the easy transportation of prisoners and supplies. Its proximity to populated areas allowed the camp to remain inhabited, while its relative isolation helped hide it from the world. His thoughts continue. Throughout the morning, 2 other prisoners collapse and are left to die. Unlike earlier, no one is there to take them away. As the clock strikes 12, the workers stop. It's time for food. Lukács is passed his ration of watery soup with rotten turnips and potato peels. While Lukács eats, he overhears 2 fellow prisoners discussing rumors about bizarre experiments taking place near the main hospital. Inside one of the rooms is Joseph Mengele, one of the most evil doctors the world has ever seen. Today's task involves working on twins, a particular obsession of his.
Yeah, you probably know that, but he survived the war and he lived happily ever after in Argentina. He died in the 70s, I think.
And he wasn't regretful at all, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because he advanced medicine a lot.
He didn't, actually.
Yeah, no, he did. I think that's what he thought, right? But
I mean,
maybe it's an excuse.
It was just an excuse, to be honest, because what he was doing was not really a medical research. It was just like more like torturing cats than really some scientific effort,
Yeah, like what they're going to say right now about the twins. It was more like the thoughts that you'd maybe have in your head, like you're curious about it, but there's no scientific or medical reason to test them. But why not? Because you have this people and you can do whatever you want. Like when he was checking, there was this elderly lady, I watched an interview that she was a victim of this with her twin sister. So that he was checking, if they feel pain in the same places, some other
exactly.
things,
So
which
it's
why, with no medical basis of even making those tests and nothing coming out of it in the end.
A few days prior, he infected them with typhus to see how their genes affect their risk of getting sick. Now, he's checking on their progression. If one twin dies, the surviving sibling is killed to allow a side-by-side dissection. His mission is racial purity, and his experiments have no limits. Meanwhile, at Monowitz, the day wears on. Lukács feels his legs growing heavier with each step. The work seems endless. Then it happens. He slows down just for a second. His grip on the material loosens, and a sharp crack echoes as it hits the ground. Without hesitation, a guard rushes over. His face is twisted with rage. Lukács barely has time to react before the blows rain down. The guard doesn't stop. To scream would only bring more punishment. Lukács is left crumpled in the dirt, grasping for air. He knows that if he stays down for too long, he will get dragged away. Lukács wishes his dad could be there to comfort him. Suddenly, a horrific thought comes to mind. What if he's dead? As Lukács limps back to his barracks, a group of guards walk in another direction. Their quarters are a very different world, sheltered from the horrors that surround them. This section of the camp is made up of over 30 buildings housing hundreds of SS guards. The barracks are made from brick and include multiple rooms, often equipped with basic furnishings such as beds, tables, and personal storage. The same officers torturing and murdering prisoners every day have access to amenities like proper sanitation facilities and heating. 7 p.m. Lukács is walking back into his barrack. Amongst the hundreds of prisoners there, he's using his remaining strength to see if his father is amongst them. Finally, near his bunk, he sees a man hunched over with blood on the floor. It's his dad. He hugs him, but his father is almost too weak to stand. He was assigned to work laying railway tracks, and during the day, someone tried to escape. They were shot and killed on the spot. Almost everyone else in the group was beaten badly, including his father. Lukács tells his father to stay put and rushes off to get food. On the northern side of the camp was a row of kitchen barracks. There was 1 or 2 for each section of the different population groups. Inside, prisoners are preparing dinner for the workers. Lukács arrives and manages to find 2 stale pieces of bread and a small sausage. He quickly hurries back. While his father recovered in his bunk, from the corner of his eye, Lukács noticed a small group of prisoners huddled together on the dirt floor. They were playing chess. The pieces were crudely fashioned from wood. The board itself was scratched into the dirt floor, its lines uneven but clear enough to follow. One of the men saw Lukács.
Yeah, I saw an article some time ago that they found the chess pieces in Auschwitz made from paper, and they were discovered like a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah, like a paper mask, right? From
They were hidden somewhere in the wall or in the bed or something like that.
Hovering over and invited him to join. For a few minutes, they weren't in Auschwitz. They weren't prisoners. They were chess players, strategists, tacticians. For the next few months, these were the only moments Lukács looked forward to. The summer of 1944 brought nearly 2 months of hell for Lukács and his father, as the Nazi war machine rapidly crumbled. In the east, Soviet forces were advancing, reclaiming nearly 100,000 square kilometers of territory. Time was running out for the Nazis, but it was also running out for Lukács and the thousands of other prisoners still trapped inside. 6 a.m., August 1st, 1944. Since their arrival inside nearly 2 months ago, Lukács and his father had faced a brutal life. Little food, no breaks, and constant beatings. Outside, reporting to their work assignment, Lukács realizes his father is barely conscious. Then, he hears a thump. A few meters away, his father collapsed into the mud and is not moving. Lukács paused for a moment, wondering.
You know what's really sad about it? That whether these people are, just he took some names that he found or they're entirely made up, it's that every single one of these stories is sad enough that you would think about it for a long time and it's real, but those were like thousands of such stories and everyone had such a story who was there.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, hundreds
millions.
of thousands, yeah. And it's if you stop to think about everyone, it's, enough for a whole terrifying movie or a terrifying book. And everyone is just... Yeah, I don't know how to put it into words, but you know what I mean? Like just so many...
Yeah, that's why I said in the beginning that, the watching Schindler's List is like this different experience, because it's a different thing to hear about numbers. It's like this quote of Stalin, death of one person is tragedy, death of a million is a statistic. And it's similar situation, you heard about the millions of people who died in Holocaust, but it's just a number until you see a video like that, a movie like Schindler's List, a movie like, Boy in the striped pajamas. Striped?
Striped, yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, and then you can, feel the story. That's why the stories are so powerful, and then you can grasp it and like have the idea of hundreds of thousands of those stories in those places.
Yeah.
And that hits differently then.
Wondering how he could get him to the prisoners' hospital. Many prisoners suffered from tuberculosis, malaria, meningitis, and dysentery. Lukács' dad is suffering from the same fate as countless others: exhaustion mixed with starvation. This section of the camp consisted of over a dozen barracks in repulsive conditions. Camp doctors could not help many of their patients. They were also prisoners themselves. Even if he was transported to the hospital, the conditions were so squalid that the chances of survival would be extremely low. At night, rats would chew away at the legs of the sick, both those alive and dead. An SS guard approaches Lukács' father and screams at him to raise himself up. He musters whatever strength he has to shakily stand, but his fate is sealed. The guard gives one signal, and 2 other guards come to escort him away. He won't be heading to the hospital. Lukács' father is placed in a steady moving line entering the crematorium building number 2 in the northwest of the camp, away from the prisoner barracks. These 4 structures are built with deceptive facades to prevent panic about the imminent fate. Inside, the room is bare and windowless, except for one unsettling feature: a series of tall, mesh-covered columns that stretch from floor to ceiling. These columns were the delivery system for Zyklon B, the cyanide-based pesticide used to murder prisoners in horrific numbers. Once the chamber is sealed, SS guards drop the gas pellets through these columns, releasing lethal fumes, filling the room within minutes. Each gas chamber was connected to an adjacent crematorium, where the bodies were immediately disposed of. At the peak of the Holocaust in 1944, the camp murdered somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 people each day. On this,
What is crazy about it is that the Nazis, they had no problem killing those people. For them it was just a work, just a job to do. But they understood the psychological impact for a person to kill so many people. So at the beginning of the war, they were killing Jews mostly, and other people too, with guns.
Mm-hmm.
They were just gathering them and shoot
Yeah,
them.
like shooting them, and against the wall, lining them
Yeah,
up.
but Himmler noticed that it takes too much of a psychological toll on the SS, and he decided that they need to figure out a different way to kill people
Without having to look at them.
Yeah, and to kill them in large numbers. So they were experimenting with the mobile gas chambers, with the cars.
Yeah.
And then they decided that it's not efficient enough, so they need to figure out something else. So they understood, the psychological impact of that.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, they were like, yeah, but we just need to do it
They treated
in a way
it,
that we don't see this.
I think they just treated it as one more factor in the efficiency. It wasn't like, oh, we are struggling because of this, because maybe what we're doing is not a good thing, and that's why we have the psychological toll, but just rather, oh, it's not very efficient. So the same way that we can think, how is the gas chamber connected to the crematorium in the fastest way possible, so we work fast, the same way,
But that's not what I mean. It's not only about efficiency. It's like he understood that killing people leaves an impact on a person.
That's what I meant, but I think he was not feeling sorry for all the soldiers who had to kill people that they would later have. You think? I think he was just thinking that they would not be efficient soldiers later on because they would have psychological issues.
I don't know exactly what he was feeling, inside his heart. But the main concerns were about the mental well-being of soldiers.
I thought that was because then they would have to have issues and they would not be able to be as good soldiers anymore. Not because
they weren't even soldiers, to be honest. They were only those. They were called Einsatzgruppen. I don't remember. Sorry.
Oh, that's even more interesting than if you say it that way.
Groups of not really soldiers. Groups of men whose only purpose was to kill civilian population. They were not soldiers who were fighting on the front.
Well, then if it wasn't just about how fast and how long they can do their work for, then it's definitely even more interesting.
Yeah, he just saw that after the so-called Holocaust by bullets, as it is called, he saw that the let's call them soldiers for the time being, that they were just not good, psychologically, and so he understood the impact of killing another person. So that's why they wanted to do this, in such a way that you don't feel this
personal connection to the person you're killing.
Yeah.
This day, that included Lukac's father. Between 1944 and January 1945, the Soviets got closer and closer to the German homeland. The SS began to abandon various concentration and labor camps it had built throughout the Eastern Front. In January of 1945, the Soviets entered Auschwitz. The troops see a few thousand prisoners, gaunt and starving. To them, it's liberation. But for Lukacs, it was too little, too late. He was 250 miles away. Marching through the dead of winter along with 1,000 others, Lukacs had managed to make it so far, but his body can't handle it any longer. He collapses on the side of the road, falling face first into the snow. A guard shouts at him to stand, but Lukacs no longer has the strength. The last sound he hears is a rifle being cocked, followed by a shot that echoes through the cold air. Auschwitz operated from May 1940 to January 1945. It expanded from the original barracks at Auschwitz I to include Auschwitz-Birkenau and the slave worker factory of Auschwitz-Monowitz. Lukács and his father may be fictional, but they stand for the countless lives shattered by the Nazi regime and its supporters during their merciless terror across Europe. Of the 1.1 million people transported to Auschwitz, over 900,000 were murdered or worked to death shortly after arrival.
Yeah, that's it.
It wasn't, I think, anything that I didn't know before, but
it really well showed the scale of the camps,
Yeah.
how gigantic it was and how well organized also.
and I really liked all the elements of the video, how they were combined, how he made the story about the real people so that we could have this point of connection, but also how he interwoven the animations with the actual video footage from the time and from today as well. Yeah, I think it was really well illustrated, like you say.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, it's a small channel, but you can see the effort
Yeah,
really.
the level
and
of effort really is really.
I think it will grow, and like you said, a very good strategy, with telling this story from the perspective of, even if it's a fictional character, but it doesn't matter, There were probably like hundreds of stories like that, even more. We know for a fact that the whole families were sent to the Auschwitz, so probably not one or two, not three fathers and sons who died there.
For sure. And it's I think it's easier to pass information if someone is for the first time learning about it. I don't doubt it, but when you are learning more about it, it's easier to pass the information if you have this personal connection, that you can feel the emotion as well. Of course, you feel the emotion even hearing about it, but it's like you said, it's not just a statistic then. But you learn about all of the statistics, and then you also have the grounding of that one person.
If you want to learn more about this and see the actual footage that the soldiers who liberated the camps taped, you can type Nuremberg trial on Wikipedia, and then you scroll down below, and there is this document uploaded on Wikipedia. It's 1 hour 30 minutes, something like that. The player is not very good. It's from Wikipedia, so don't expect YouTube quality. It takes a long time to load, but there is an actual footage from the concentration camps from that period, and it was the document that was showed during the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah, but also take care watching it, because it's what you would expect it to be.
Yeah, it's worse than anything you've ever seen. It's worse than what you've seen in the movies. So if you want to watch it, then be prepared.
Yeah, I don't think it's a strange thing to think about, and it's too long to discuss now. But do you always do the people who went through it to watch it if you don't want to, if it's too heavy for you to watch it? It's an interesting thing I always think about.
I mean, Americans were really motivated to show this footage to American population during the war. I mean, at the late stages of the war, because it was so important for people to understand that it really happened and that it's not something colorized, something exaggerated, just for the purposes of propaganda, and because nothing like this ever even happened before. So it was many people watched this during that time because it was shown to people on different circumstances very often.
Yeah.
And the Americans made a point that they want people to understand that it really happened, and it's not exaggerated, it's not colorized by any means, and that's why they did those footages. They taped everything, they made hundreds, thousands of photographs, they showed everything, they didn't censor anything. And also for the Germans, they mobilized German population, civilian population, to clean the concentration camps that the Americans liberated.
Yeah.
The concentration camps that were in Germany. So so there was this knowledge in the German population about what happened. I mean, they knew, of course.
Yeah, but to see
but
it,
they
it's a
wanted
bit
them
different,
to see this and to feel this personally, so they can talk about this with their families. So this knowledge will be passed down to next generations. Okay, guys, thank you for watching with us. It's already
you.
a long video, so I think we will not prolong it anymore. Thank you for watching, and yeah, well, there's nothing more to say.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next video.
Goodbye.
Bye.